when you think coffee, like ready to drink, what do you think?
Their iced coffee.
Air iced coffee.
Disgusting.
You don't like it?
It's so much sugar. Like,
A guilty pleasure. There's people buying from pretty much every state. We've had some customers buy from some random town in Northern Territory. We've had
what?
Yeah, I kid you not.
How do they even find you?
You know G7? Trung Nguyen,
Oh yeah. The red and black.
Yeah. So the red and black.
That's
so
the big one.
Bit of tea. Him and his wife, they divorced.
Yeah.
Because he decided to be like a monk or something like that. He became kind of like a hermit.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Rice and Mike's podcast. I'm your host, Trung Nguyen, and today we're joined by Dylan Nguyen of Saigon Brew. Dylan, thanks for joining today.
No, thanks for having me.
How are you, mate?
I'm good. Really excited to be here.
Yeah.
Big fan of the podcast. I've watched a couple of
mate,
episodes already.
me.
So
That's how he got a spot on the show. He just had to, pull a couple strings and compliment me a bit, and now he's on the sofa here that he's so gleefully watched over time on YouTube and Instagram Reels. So why is Dylan here? As you can see, well, if you are watching on video, he has a polo which says Saigon Brew just on the
you can see
little corner there. Got to promote his business a little. So tell us a bit about this business of yours.
Saigon Brew. Started about 2 years ago. We're coming up to our 2 years now. In May. It started as a COVID project, really. That's probably where the inception came from.
Yeah.
Had everyone in COVID. I think everyone had that spare time.
Similar like me, a bit.
Yeah. Well, I can't say that the entire time I just spent working on Saigon Brew. Obviously, I was gaming and stuff like that. I think most people were.
That was probably the best time of gaming that I can remember during like quarantine gaming.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. There was something about it where
so good.
everyone was just at home at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, let's just buy a Minecraft server and just like start building something.
Is that what you guys were playing?
Yeah, it was like Minecraft League or whatever, just like custom game nights, just 5v5s.
Yeah.
It was just, it was quite nice.
Yeah.
I don't know, some people really hated quarantine, but I think we had a lot of fun doing then, yeah.
No, likewise. Like my family, like I'm not sure about you guys, but we were all together at the same time. My partner, she lives in the hills. But during that period, it was kind of like, we didn't really want to be separated. So she just stayed at our place.
Just
with my family.
Temporarily lived there.
Yeah. So pretty much for on and off for the next 2 years, we kind of just all stayed together. But of course, because we couldn't go out and do too much, my parents, like all they thought about was what's the next meal or what's the next kind of like big dinner thing that we would do. So COVID was good because we got closer together, but it was also terrible for our health because my parents, they like to go big with food. Like you're talking, even like just fancy food, right? Like whatever they could think of. So we just gained a stupid amount of weight over that time. So bad, so to the point where it's like, man, I had to buy like a weight set, like a barbell set and stuff. I was like, man, if I don't work out or something, I'm just going to get fat here.
Well, it was even worse because gyms were closed.
Yeah, exactly, right?
So, they were in hot demand.
Yeah,
gym equipment.
Exactly. Yeah. The whole gym, the home gym stuff was blowing up during that period. And I think
it was huge.
If you looked on like Gumtree and stuff, like, there would have been so much stuff for sale after. But so what happened? It was COVID. Had a lot of spare time on my hands. Kind of, I suppose growing up, always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to do a bit more than just your normal corporate job. Anyway, so at the time, I was like, I just didn't know what to do. So I was kind of thinking, all right, well, what do I like? What do I enjoy, or what means a lot to me? And I was just thinking, well, I've always wanted to do something, I suppose, related to being Vietnamese in a way, like either Vietnamese food. Like one of the other ideas I had was, might open like a banh mi shop. Like obviously not in this area, a little bit further away, somewhere maybe in the hills or Parramatta or something like that.
Is that not more grueling than the 9 to 5? Because I know these guys wake up at like 2-3 a.m. start making bread.
Yeah,
and it's super early, and then you got to finish up late-ish, clean up, and then you barely get any sleep for the next day.
No, you're right. But there's other ways to do it, right? It's always kind of like, well, I suppose that's the traditional way to do it. But then you can always go, all right, well, I'm terrible at making bread. You go, well, who makes bread better than me? You go, can I buy your bread every morning? Just deliver it to my store and just use the bread. And all the other stuff, right? The other stuff that you can control, kind of like the ingredients you put in it, the way you make the pork, you can do that all yourself, and it's less intensive. Because think about all the equipment you'd need to have for a bakery as well.
Oh yeah,
right. So if you're kind of just doing a quick small takeaway thing,
yeah,
and like you're servicing, let's say office workers at a train station, right, or just people coming and going, you're not going to have that much space to do the whole bakery situation anyway.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my initial idea, and I was like, all right, well, that's a really big investment, right? Obviously, it's going to cost like hundreds of thousands for just the setup, and then the rent will probably be like, pretty high as well.
Yeah.
Because I think during COVID, like for some reason, rent was really high. Like everyone was trying to, all the landlords for like commercial spaces were trying to like recoup, how.
I feel like it should have been cheaper because no one's going out. So
you'd think so, right?
Pay it back.
Yeah, you'd think so. But between the first lockdown and the second one is when I actually started going out looking for locations. Yeah. I started looking for locations, and some of these spots that aren't that big would be like close to $100,000 in a year for rent, even though it was crazy. And then I suppose leading into the Saigon Brew piece a little bit later, but when we were looking for our own Saigon Brew, the warehouse, surely it's got to be cheap. Like there's no one like kind of like looking for these at the moment, but we couldn't get anything close to where we are now in Canberra or the Liverpool area, because everything was like 40, 50, 60 grand for like a pretty small space
for a year.
For a year, yeah.
Well, what's the average for people that aren't really business
on average?
owners?
It should be around the 30 grand mark, like 30 to 30
Just
to
an
35.
empty warehouse.
Yeah, empty warehouse, about 200 square meters. That'd be the average.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of price point we were looking for, right? Especially since we were just going to start out, it was like, oh, it's a big commitment to dive straight into something like 60K a year or something like that, maybe more if you. Obviously there's a lot of uncertainties in the first year. So the only place we could find was at Campbelltown. You had to go that far out to look for something decent. Yeah, and that's where we're at now.
It's like 40 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Traffic, maybe?
Yeah. I'd say about 35 because you're going against most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then once you jump onto, I want to say it's Hume or something like that. Past Costco, Casula Costco.
Yeah.
Once you go,
I know of the road, but I don't know what the name is.
me either, bro.
That's all the GPS.
Yeah, but once you jump on there, it's just a straight shot down to kind of like Campbelltown, MacArthur area. I know I'm jumping around a little bit here, but so I always want to do something related to being Vietnamese. Always wanted to do something separate or kind of for myself or on your own type thing. And then I was thinking, all right, well. That's like doing the banh mi shop was a big commitment. How about let's do something that you're not, it's not, you don't lose too much if you don't kind of like make it.
Right.
And that was kind of like a naive thought process because, being 2 years in, it's like, shit, man, like it's a massive commitment. Yeah, dude.
A lot of money.
Yeah, that's it. But I landed on coffee because I really enjoyed drinking coffee at the time. And I already knew Vietnamese coffee was like something special, something unique, right? Because got a unique taste and the way we make it is unique. A lot of history behind it and things like that. But also gave me an opportunity there was an opportunity there to kind of like share a bit more about Vietnamese culture and things like that.
Was there a light bulb moment where you were just like coffee? Because it sounded like you had a couple ideas on the plate, but like when was that moment where you're like, okay, we're going to stick with coffee. This is it. Yeah.
Well, I suppose the thing that kind of cemented that idea for me was how Boss Coffee was kind of paving the way a little bit.
Yeah. I remember they started slowly advertising their drinks, and I was like, oh wait, we had these in Japan, it's finally in Oz. And it was like this really hype moment at the time. I've only had them like twice. I don't really drink a lot of coffee, but it was big moment for the canned coffee to start making its way.
That's it. Well, especially in Australia, because like for the longest time, when you think coffee like ready to drink, what do you think?
Dare iced coffee. Disgusting.
You don't like it?
It's so much sugar. Like
a guilty pleasure, but
there's there, and then there's what's the chocolate milk one? I swear there's one as well.
Big M?
Yeah. Does Big M have some sort of?
Yeah, they've got a coffee flavor. Yeah. So Big M and the Barista Bros.
Oh, Barista Bros.
Yeah. But they've gone they've discontinued that line.
Yeah.
But Australians have always thought about coffee or ready to drink coffee as like that coffee milk. But when Boss Coffee came in, they kind of introduced you could do it in cans as well. And there was some success there because like like yourself, when my partner and we went to Japan, we saw Boss Coffee in cans, and we always knew that it was part of the culture, right? You always go, oh, they've got these vending machines, they've got like hot coffee, like hot machines with these cans of coffee
with
in
cold drinks in the same machine.
Yeah,
How
exactly.
This is technology.
Mate, they're light years ahead of us. But yeah, I was like, look, they're obviously having some success. They've got a market share, so there's probably an opportunity to kind of carve out our own space with Vietnamese coffee. And that was a light bulb moment. I was like, it's kind of a proven concept already. You're not inventing brand new. It's kind of you're just introducing an option, right? So yeah, that was it. That was kind of the moment. I was like, mate, Vietnamese coffee tastes great. It's different to the Boss Coffee. It's different to, I suppose, what's available with like the durries and stuff like that. And, a lot of people enjoy it when they do have it fresh. So, what's a better way to, I suppose, introduce it to more people than a ready-to-drink version, right? Because I suppose that was one of the problems or challenges we were trying to solve for some people as well. If we're thinking solution-based. Yeah, like that was probably one of the things that we were trying to solve for is like, okay, well, if we're trying to introduce Vietnamese coffee to, let's just say, someone that's never interacted with Vietnamese food or anything like that, how many hurdles would they have to jump over to try it, right? So you go... Where can they find Vietnamese coffee? They've got to go to like kind of Asian-centric area, right? Yeah. And then it's like in their thought process, it's like, why do I want to try Vietnamese coffee when I can just get regular coffee, right? So there's a lot of hurdles for them to jump, but it's like, well, if it's if they can get it in grocery stores and things like that, and in itself, because if you drink Viet coffee for the first time and you don't know anything about it, what's the first kind of like, I suppose, reaction you're going to have to it? Like, what's your
sweet, strong?
Really sweet, really strong, right? It's a thing where it's like that's why they put so much ice, is so that once it dilutes down a little bit, it makes it a little bit easier to drink over time. Yeah, so that's why you can see a lot of like older Vietnamese Asian people sitting at those cafes. They sit there for hours and they've got one coffee. Why is that? You know what I mean? Yeah, because they've made it that strong that it can kind of like just continue to dilute over time, and you're still drinking the same thing for like 3 hours or whatever it is. So,
well, this is an interesting theory. Do you think that Viet cafes have a lower amount of revenue because they're taking longer to drink in winter because the ice takes longer to melt?
I mean, that's a good theory. I can't see.
If anyone knows, let us know. Because so probably in summer, that's where they're making a lot more.
100%.
The ice is melting really quickly, then they move on once the drink's gone.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder what they do during winter then, right? Because Vietnamese coffee is usually cold. Have you ever had Vietnamese coffee hot? I've never bought it hot before.
It's always cold.
Yeah, always cold.
That's the image in my mind.
Yeah. Maybe they've got the regular coffee machines in there now as well.
No, I don't think they go to enough. They like it though.
Yeah?
It's not really an Asian, at least that generation, to really go for the Aussie coffee. Like, let me get a cappuccino.
Or a latte or something like that. Yeah. No, you're right.
Give me the taste of home.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting? I don't know. Have you been to Vietnam recently?
2023?
Okay, so
over New Year's.
Yeah, okay, so recent enough. Yeah. But what I noticed that was different, and what I was hearing from some of my family there is, so I only just went like end of last year, but now the big thing is like the machine coffees, right? So they call it cafe mate, like it's coming out of the actual normal machines. That's what they're kind of like leaning towards because they're a bit more trendy now.
Oh, I see.
Rather than the traditional stuff, right? Because they go, oh, we've had this for 100 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But now it's like, this is the new stuff.
Okay. So they're doing the opposite direction of us.
Yeah, exactly. So we're taking a bit of interest in the more traditional ways of making coffee, the drips and stuff. But back in Asia, it's gone the other way. They're like,
modern option.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so much change in the coffee culture over there. Like, there's so many big chains over there now. Like Highlands.
I remember.
There's another really trendy chain that's over there. I think it's based in Singapore or something like that. But they do a lot of the
Zeus.
Might be Zeus.
Zeus Coffee.
I think so.
ZUS. It says blue branding.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah,
but I don't know if it's. I know it was in Singapore. I know it was in Malaysia, but I don't know if it was in Vietnam. I don't remember that.
Oh, could be. But yeah, it was just an interesting insight, I suppose, to see that they're going the other way, and we're not going backwards in a way, but I suppose we're broadening our coffee horizon a little bit more.
Did you try it? Machine coffee? Yeah.
No, I didn't. I was like, dude, I get over here, man. when I'm over there, I want
market research.
No, I wanted the traditional stuff over there. I was just like, where can I go to get the traditional Viet coffee from the street? I wouldn't really go looking for those kind of like chains.
Yeah, because a lot of people say that Australia does have one of the best coffees in the world. My mate's sister, she moved to Singapore and she tried. Oh no, she told us like the coffee there wasn't that great because I think it was the milk.
Okay.
So something to do with we have a lot of land for better raised cows or something, so the milk's better.
Yeah.
And therefore coffee's better. Whereas in Singapore, there's not much land. So I assume, I don't know where they get their milk from. It's probably not great, or it's, I don't know what. Look, I'm not a fucking milk expert. Maybe some sort of synthetic milk or something that they make, and it's just not as good. So maybe you opt for like oat milk or something if that's the case.
Maybe.
But look, I don't know.
That's an interesting thought though, because like I thought like coffee in general, what makes a good coffee is not the milk component does play a role, but more so the beans itself, I feel like would have more of an impact. Would you agree? I'd think so, right?
I'm not an expert.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, yeah, that's the main component.
Sure.
So what makes a car fast? Well, probably the engine, rather than the aerodynamics.
Yeah. So like, let's just say we stripped away the milk side of it. Yeah. Does the coffee still taste good then? Right. I'm sure it does. Like I don't know. I saw a list of top 10 coffee coffee shops in the world or something like that. Singapore was it was like there was a shop in Singapore that was number 2 or number 3. Philippines was up there.
Wow, Philippines.
Yeah, Philippines was up there. Australia was 1. It was a Toby's Estate somewhere in Melbourne. Yeah, Toby's Estate. You know the. Isn't
that a chain?
It's a chain. So they sell beans. Like that's why we see it a lot in here. I don't know if there's a lot of Toby's Estate cafes in Sydney, but apparently they've got a few spots, like a few locations and stuff. Yeah, I think. Don't quote me on that.
Right. And what were the other countries?
There was a few. Oh, hang on. Let me pull it up.
Yeah.
I don't want to get fact checked, so.
That's fine.
Toby's Estate, number 1. Yeah, Toby's Estate coffee roasters.
Yeah.
Number 1, and then there's America up here.
Oh, USA, yeah. Austria.
We'll
link this in the description if you want to have a look at it.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. Apartment Coffee, Singapore, number 6.
Man, I really should have tried these.
Kawa.
What was there?
Oh, there's actually a few Australian spots on here, eh? Man, that other list that I saw must have been like a modified version or something, because majority of the stuff that was on that list was a lot of Asian countries. So it might have been like top cafes in Asia or something like that. But interesting insight.
I enjoy more fruit when I was in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
They just had this really killer fruit juices. I don't remember, what was the right term for it? It was shakes. I remember when I was in Langkawi, I was in Malaysia recently, and just like these random stores, they always have all these like fruit cups and stuff, and it's like dirt cheap, $2 or something. I remember getting coconut shakes. They were just so good, so cold. Got the flakes in there. Even watermelon shake is great as well. But
but fruit's good in Asia. It's way better. It's like you said, it's so much sweeter. I'm not big on fruit, but when I do eat a lot of fruit, it's usually when I'm in Asia, like on holidays and stuff like that. Yeah,
and durian.
I'm not big into durian. That's all you, man. I'll leave that to you.
Durian's good.
I'm not against it, but I'm not really a big fan either. Like I won't go out of my way to go find it or anything.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, when in Malaysia, it's like, oh, it's the fruit.
You're right. Yeah. And then they've got I saw in some video they've got like a market where they've got experts that stand on the market and they help you pick out depending on like what kind of flavor profile of durian you like. They help you pick it. Kind of like
in Malaysia?
Yeah, Malaysia.
I know there's a store that's really big, which we went to. It's called Durian King, which is kind of like a market, which is what you're saying. So they got stands and everything. It's just stocked. It looks like one of those like Fred's Fruit Market you see at Westfields or whatever. Yeah. They just got these stands of fruit, but instead of fruit, it's just all different breeds of durian. There's charts everywhere.
That might be it.
And they tell you like, which one do you want? And they'll just like chop it up, serve it straight to you.
Yeah, I think that might be what I was referring to, but I couldn't.
I think it was, that might be it. But it's like, is it a market? It's like kind of half
Maybe
store.
Just a store. Yeah.
Half restaurant. Kind of like that K barbecue place in...
Butcher's Buffet? Is that where you get to pick your meat and then they...
No, it's not Butcher's. Is it? It's not Butcher's.
Where is it?
Butcher's Buffet is the one within Strathfield. I think it's Burwood. But it's like not Burwood. It's like the outskirts. It's near a Holy Moly. My mate told me about it. K barbecue. If I put in K barbecue Strathfield, I'm gonna get like 20,000 results. I know Butcher's Buffet. That's not it.
Not it?
That's like actual buffet.
Yeah,
You just
yeah,
go
yeah.
in and grab it and stuff.
That's a cool concept though. I enjoyed it when I was there.
All right, quick segue. Yes, it's called Butcher Rant. And that place is half a butcher, half a restaurant, which is where the name arises from.
Very interesting.
Butcher Rant in Homebush. Homebush. I'll link it in the description, but you can pick out the meat. And then there's a K barbecue section where you can just fry up your selections. It's really good. They're like homemade kimchi. Not sponsored by them, by the way. It's a great place. Anyway, where were we up to? We're looking at the top 10 coffees.
Segued really badly.
Yeah. So you wanted to start this business?
Oh yeah, that's right. Talking about solutions.
Yeah.
And then I think we just kind of went on a tangent.
That's the normal.
Yeah. So it was kind of like one of the problems we were trying to solve is like, how do we get or introduce Vietnamese coffee to people? And like, look, Australians do have an appetite for that ready to drink stuff, right? Because they like, dare and things like that.
Even though it's so bad.
Even though it's so bad for you. Yeah, that's right. We're like, okay, so, if they've got an appetite for it, surely, people will be interested in trying.
I think it has to pair well with a cigarette, right? Because that's what people call tradies breakfast.
Yeah.
Right? Their iced coffee and a cigarette.
Yeah, that's it. A meat pie or something like that, or a donut. Yeah. No, ours, we tested it vigorously, with a bunch of smoker friends we've got, does it go well with the cigarette?
Actually.
It was one of the, no.
I would have believed you, man.
Yeah, it looked like it. Yeah. So, no, we didn't do that, no. Yeah. But it would have been good, Could be an interesting advertisement or something like that if we ever wanted to go down that route. Kind of like
smoker's choice.
Yeah, hey, talk about tradies breakfast, right? You want to advertise at tradies. Think about this, right? So the shot is you've got a tradie and you've got him drinking their iced coffee or a iced coffee.
Yeah.
And then you put Saigon Brew in his hand and you kind of just do like some dude standing in a lab and you're handing him different coffees and stuff like that. Kind of, how does it go with the cigarette type thing, Yeah, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's illegal to have cigarettes in...
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, you can't advertise cigarettes in general. So I assume smoking's banned.
Yeah. Maybe we can simulate the smoko break, right? Like,
I mean, you could do something like for reals, but I'm saying TV or bus ads. You can't do that.
No, definitely not.
But maybe you could do a blind test. You probably have thought of that. Blind test coffees. Rate which one's good.
Yeah, it's something that we want
to.
Yeah, something we want to try at some point. But yeah, I think we've got to whiteboard that a little bit more, eh? The whole advertisement piece.
So you started with 3 flavors. Why these 3? And can you name them?
So we started with 3 flavors. The core one being the iced coffee, which I had every intention of bringing a box for Trung before. It was a little gift box.
Good for the video.
Yeah, it could have been good for the video. It had nice packaging and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But we've got 3 core flavors. We've got the iced coffee, which is the one that everyone knows, Cafe Cedar. And then we've got a long black, which is meant to kind of, it was inspired by the Cafe Dang. And then we've got one we call a latte, which is a bit milkier, less strong than the iced coffee. And that's kind of inspired by Cafe Baxil, which is kind of similar thing in Vietnam as well. So it's got a little bit more, it's got more whole milk than just condensed milk.
Oh, wait, we can use one in my fridge as a prop.
Okay,
I'll leave it here.
Yeah. All right, so we've got a prop.
Snagged one in my fridge.
Yeah.
And this is the iced coffee one.
Iced coffee.
You'd like to showcase that?
Iced coffee?
My cat's fur's stuck in it now.
Yeah, no, it's still good. I know the feels. I've got a dog that she loses so much hair, so the couch is pretty much, it's just white now. But yeah, so this is the core flavor. So if you guys like Cafe Cedar or anyone likes just Vietnamese coffee or iced coffee in general, this is a good one to go for. But this is our core flavor. A lot of people we try to introduce it to, this is what we tell them, like, oh, this is, what if you think Vietnamese coffee, this is what we've made it into. And the other 2 versions, the latte is kind of like on the lighter end of coffee. So it's got a little bit less caffeine, a bit more milk. And then the black is obviously on the other end of the spectrum, which is
straight.
Yeah, it's just straight coffee, straight water. And it's like, it tastes stronger, right? Because of the Vietnamese coffee beans. So the reason why we made it like that is because we wanted to kind of cater to all the different types of coffee drinkers. Those that aren't really into coffee or want something a little bit lighter, a bit sweeter. Then you've got your core coffee drinkers, and then you've got the ones where it's like, nah, I just like it straight. Don't sweeten it for me. I like to suffer in the morning type of person.
Just wake me up.
Just wake me up type situation. So, so that's why we made it.
Which one would be the most popular, you think?
That is the most popular.
Iced coffee.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is the one kind of like most people are supposed familiar with when they do try it. But we do have like the iced latte is not that far behind in terms of sales. Like it's pretty close second. Yeah. I think it's because people kind of enjoy the little bit lighter. Some people say that this is a bit strong. Considering it's a canned coffee.
How many milligrams of caffeine?
Oh, it's about 140 on average. Yeah. So they're about. So that's about I suppose for reference that. Oh, no, it's not on there. Yeah.
Okay. I thought it should have been on there.
Yeah. So for reference, that's about like a shot of coffee.
Regular.
Yeah, just a regular espresso if you had one.
Okay.
But if in a latte, they usually choose like one standard shot. Yeah.
In terms of customer base, I assume most would be from Sydney?
Yeah. It's a mix actually. We're pretty widespread. Like we do a lot online.
Okay.
So there's people buying from pretty much every state. We've had some customers buy from northern, like some random town in Northern Territory. We've had I kid you not.
How do they even find you?
Mate, the power of ads. Yeah, I kid you not, man. So like, and how we know, most of the time we don't really pay attention to like where these people are from.
Yeah.
But because we offer, like we when we do the online pricing, we kind of calculated the pricing into it. So we go, it's free shipping. Don't worry about shipping. It's already accounted for.
Yeah.
So when we go to pay for the shipping to these particular places that we're sending it, right? Nothing ever really stands out when it's like $10. That's pretty standard.
Yeah.
But when it's these $30, $35, we're like, all right, where is this going? So we look it up and it's like, it's in a town, Northern Territory or WA, like North WA somewhere. It's like,
who even lives there?
I have no idea, but how are these people even finding it? And you know what's interesting though? Some of these names are like more Asian names. Like
Asians living in Northern WA?
Mate, I don't know. Maybe there's some Asian population up there or something like that.
But mini Cabra.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting insight to see where, what kind of people are buying and stuff. But yeah, we pretty much have buyers from every state, at least from online.
Yeah.
They like people are always ordering it.
So how do you deal with these expensive shipping orders where it's like?
Well, that's the thing.
$30?
Like it's we kind of just account for it and take the average right over the right because you've got to take a decent like a margin right for every product that we sell online. And that would have accounted for, we don't think about it anymore on the one product at a time because it's kind of like a span over a year.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, over a year, if the average shipping is around $10, which is what we expected, then it's okay. We can kind of absorb it.
Yeah.
But if it starts becoming too high, then it's like, well, it's eating into our margin. Then it's like, all right, well, we need to adjust the free shipping policy, right? That's the thought process, yeah.
And it's a mental thing. Every time I order something, it's like, shipping? No,
exactly.
But when you see free shipping, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'll get it.
Yeah, it's the whole psychology of the online buying stuff. Like that's why we did it in the first place. Just reduce the amount of hurdles as possible for someone to commit to buying a drink product online.
Yeah.
Because like when you buy clothes and stuff like that, it's a little bit easier to kind of get. No, I wouldn't say a little bit easier, but the hurdles or the challenges are different, right? But if you're talking about a food or a drink product that no one's ever seen or heard of, and they're gonna try to buy it online for the first time, it's like the hurdles to get all the challenges.
Larger.
Yeah, a lot harder to get them over those hurdles. So you just reduce the hurdles. Try to make it as easy as possible. So that's why we did that. Yeah.
So what other challenges did you have when you initially started the whole business? Because now you've run it. You've had it for 2 years now. This is probably a wealth of knowledge and a lot of mistakes or, things that you ran into.
Challenges. Oh, mate, there's been a whole host, right?
Yeah.
From day one. When you have an idea or some kind of a dream or a business goal, you're like, it's going to be great. Everything's going to go smoothly. And I'm sure everyone says the same story, right? Like everyone has this.
We should start a business.
It's just dream. It's going to be a dream path. We're going to launch it and everyone's going to buy it, right? But like leading up to the launch part was incredibly hard. It's because, I didn't come from a food and beverage background. So I had no prior knowledge to this. So like you had to do research on the product itself. Like what can you make? Like what, the labeling requirements were, especially in Australia, like we're really strict with it.
Yeah.
And then like what kind of ingredients can and can't go together, what kind of ingredients you can and can't use.
And even how do you even source a can to begin with?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm trying to think about if I start something, where do I buy a can? Where do I get the metal? Where do I get the machine that puts the drink in? How do I print this on?
Yeah. Well, that's
so many factors.
That's the beauty of like, I suppose, that's where all the research came in, right? It's like, obviously we didn't have any of the resources or capability to manufacture this stuff. So we went looking for someone that could. And then, I suppose through research, like, think about it. If Boss Coffee's making it, right? Or, there's got to be, and there's 50 other, let's say, coffee brands in Asia. There's someone got to be making it out there as well. So there's got to be people that's making it.
Yeah.
So that's what we went and looked for. We found kind of a manufacturer. That was probably the hardest challenge, was how do we find the right one?
Where do you even start?
Yeah.
It's manufacturers in Oz, but like
pretty much. It all starts from a Google search, right? It's kind of like Vietnamese, like coffee manufacturers. And coffee manufacturers in Asia, in other countries.
Yeah.
And then, you've got to think about the challenges. All right, well, if it's made in Europe, for example, what are the ingredients that they use over there that we can or can't use in Australia?
Yeah.
And then there's that whole piece, and then you've got to get think about certification for the product that you bring in as well. It's like, does all the ingredients meet our standards? Like, where like they source, or where do you source all this stuff from? It's all that stuff. And like, I didn't know any of that. We had to kind of like pretty much start from scratch to get to a point where it's like, all right, well, we kind of know enough now. Let's start testing some products. So
this is made in Oz, right?
No, it's made in Vietnam.
Oh, it's Vietnam. Oh, so it's straight. It's the authentic stuff.
As authentic as possible. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, right? Like for example, we brought over, or we started a coffee brand that was marketed as an Australian coffee, but made in a different country. Most people feel kind of like a certain way about that. But for us, it was like, it's
part of the brand.
Yeah. We don't think that that's a problem because, we also try to promote like the fact that, we've done it in numerous kind of like video, on our socials and stuff about the history and kind of a bit of education about Viet coffee, that Vietnam's like one of the largest coffee exporters in the world. Right. And a lot of coffee, like manufacturers or blend, when they roast it, they usually use some, not all, but some of the brands would use coffee beans from Vietnam themselves. Yeah. But of course, when they roast it here and they roast it with, let's say, Arabica beans from a different country, they just call it like a blend of some sort, right?
Isn't Vietnam one of the highest consumption of coffee in the world or something?
Probably. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I read this somewhere. Maybe it was Vietnam or it was on the top 10 or something. But I think it was quite high.
Yeah, either Vietnam or Cabramatta, I don't know, all those old fellas that are sitting at the cafes, drinking coffee all day. Surely they've got to rank us pretty high as well.
Yeah.
But so that was probably that was a massive challenge for us to try to find the right manufacturer and kind of like get the product, right for Australian consumers. That was probably a big one. I'm sure like in other countries, the challenge will probably be similar, but slightly different because it's just Australia is very particular about the products that come through.
Yeah.
It's got to meet our standards and like the ingredients and stuff like that. So tip for anyone that's doing any kind of food or beverage based business in the future, like be really careful about what you've got in the thing and make sure you know what you can and can't bring in, because if you bring something in that has a certain amount of an ingredient way higher than we're allowed, they'll sack the entire thing. They will not bring it in. Yeah, they'll tell you to destroy it at the dock. So it's gonna cost you. Yeah, it'll be an expensive kind of like mistake. So just make sure you got all the certifications. You've spoken to everyone that you can speak to before you get it here, like Department of Agriculture and stuff like that. They'll check it before it lands. Quarantine is a big one as well. Making sure that the product or what you bring in isn't like, for example, a big one or a scary one is like rice, because of all the pests and stuff that could come in it. So just depending on like where you source your stuff from as well, just be careful about.
So if you have like a rice wine or something, it has to be.
No, rice wine's okay because it's sealed and it's packaged. I'm talking about like raw rice, those rice bags that come over. All
right, but what about the drink? Yeah. What sort of ingredients would you be looking out for? I'm kind of curious.
Milk is a massive one. Yeah, Australia is very particular about milk. So for us, like we're okay with it because we use condensed milk, so it's not like just regular whole milk.
Yeah,
but whole milk, if for example, because we were experimenting with whole milk originally, but we had to we were able to kind of like change the recipe a little bit later.
Yeah,
but whole milk, if it's not sourced from Australia or New Zealand, especially if the product is a milk product from Asia.
Yeah.
Australia Department of Agriculture is really worried about foot and mouth disease.
Oh.
So there's foot and mouth disease still in Asia, parts of Southeast Asia and stuff like that, especially in Vietnam. So any amounts of whole milk that's over, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but if it's over a certain amount, they're like, it's too much. You can't bring it in. So yeah, if you ever do a milk-based product there, that's the biggest tip I can give you. The coffee side is okay. Like coffee is not the problem. It's milk. Yeah, at least for this. I'm sure like if you bring other stuff, like there's other considerations, but I haven't really looked into those. But
I just know alcohol is very expensive. In reference to one of our older episodes.
Oh yeah,
it's just like tax really, really high.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
And it gets adjusted for indexation.
Oh really?
Inflation, like twice a year, so it keeps going up. So there's probably going to be a point where there's people brewing at home and making their own thing at some point because it's just going to be too expensive.
Yeah, exactly right.
I think that's what they do with cigarettes.
Oh, that's what they're trying to do? Like they're just trying to phase out the cigarettes altogether?
No, as in like they've taxed it so high that there's just so many black markets for it now.
Oh.
Like if you go into any sort of, dodgy looking tobacconist and be like, hey, you got any like under the table stuff, like some Chinese one packet for $7 and they'll probably have something.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't smoke, so that's too expensive.
Yeah. Speaking of tobacco black market, I'll give you this story. So before when I was in uni, right, I was just kind of doing the odd jobs here and there. One of the jobs I had was I was a freight handler. So it was like me and a bunch of other boys, any kind of like containers that would come into like warehouses and stuff. We would be like, we're manual labor basically. We'd be sent to those warehouses to unload whatever was in there. And there was this one particular warehouse I shouldn't say the place, just in case.
There was a particular warehouse?
There's a particular warehouse that we had to go to. In this warehouse was alcohol, and it just random stuff, right? It was just kind of a storage warehouse.
Yeah.
We were there for 2 days, and we received 2 40-foot containers over 2 days, both of them full of cigarettes, and it was all Chinese cigarettes.
But you guys aren't like the border patrol. You just bring it in.
No, that's right. Yeah. So it just comes in, and then we just unload it. Like no questions asked. Like obviously from our side, but it's like if it's a lot of these Chinese cigarettes, like I don't know if it's legally on the market or not, but of course this was like, fuck it, I don't even know how many years ago this was. This was 2014, 2015. So like nearly 10 years ago now. So I don't know if it was legal back then or, the markets were different, but.
I mean, I think it's still pretty illegal. Because if you come home from overseas, you got to fill out that form and it's like 25 cigarettes per person. Like it's the most stringent law. Like come on. If I go overseas, I can't buy like a deck for my like family or whatever.
Yeah.
Like my dad and stuff. You can only bring like 1 packet per person. Like, come on. Or 2 liters of alcohol.
Yeah.
It's so strict.
I wonder what it is about that. Like, why are they trying to, what is it about bringing tobacco or cigarettes from other countries, do you think?
Because it's so cheap.
Is that they were just worried about resale?
Maybe.
Do you think so?
I don't know.
Oh, it's a good.
Well, they don't want to promote smoking.
That could probably be it. But I mean, people are still.
I give it to my mates that smoke because it's so cheap. Because I remember in Malaysia, it's like, 7 ringgit for a pack, which is like $2, $2.50. I'm like, fuck, why not? I'll just buy it from them. It's so cheap. Whereas you buy it here, it's like, I don't know, $50.
Crazy.
Yeah, expensive.
Crazy.
Yeah, don't smoke.
Don't smoke.
Not a bargain.
Don't smoke. Yeah, if you can leave with anything today, don't smoke.
And drink coffee. Coffee's all right.
Doesn't have to be this one, but maybe this one.
You get some brownie points. Yeah. But going back, you said you were doing some odd jobs and you had the corporate life ahead of you.
Yep.
So tell us about the journey of that. So, which eventually led to Saigon Brew. So at uni, what were you doing at uni?
Economics.
Oh, I mean, that kind of falls into place here, right?
A little bit, in a sense, not really.
Is it useful? No,
not at all.
Okay, you finished your degree and then what?
Finished my degree, got a foot into CBA, doing call center work.
CBA?
Yeah.
Redfern?
No, I wasn't Redfern yet. They were building at the time I was working at CBA. So I was at Darling Square.
Yeah.
So the at the time, it's CBA Group. I was working for Colonial First State.
It's like a contract.
So Colonial First State used to be owned by CBA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's the superannuation fund.
Yep.
But a couple of years later, they had a bit of drama of their own, so they split. They got sold off to someone else.
Yeah.
Anyways, besides the point. But yeah, so I was at CFS because I was into wealth management. I wanted to be a financial planner.
Sounds very Asian.
Very Asian. Yeah. So that's why. So for the first couple of years, I did what I suppose things that were related to super and wealth.
Is that what you wanted to do?
That's what I wanted to eventually do. Yeah, I wanted to get financial planning license and get into that.
Like a broker or something, that sort of
No,
thing?
so they're kind of like a wealth planner. So they help you plan for anything really. Right now you could go and find a financial planner and they can help you kind of plan for your future in terms of like what kind of financial goals you want to meet.
Like buy a house or something?
Yeah, like house, how much you want to have for your retirement, if you want to save for a car. Like, they'll help you kind of like budget and things like that if you're really bad at it.
Free service?
No. Okay. You've got to pay for it, obviously. But the other big thing is a lot of people reach out to financial planners when they kind of get closer to retirement. So they want to go, all right, how do I maximize what I've got to be able to retire comfortably?
All I know is invest more in your super when you're younger. And then when you get closer, you change the investment plan, which I've set as high growth.
Yeah.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice.
And then when you get older, you set it to the safe option. I forgot what it was. I think it's like cash and bond assets or something.
Yeah.
Financial advice. Yeah, something like that. That's just the general idea of what you should be doing.
Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it, right? Like it's something along those lines. I'm sure they can go into extraordinary detail in terms of like, all your other assets and stuff like that. Like how do you plan for that? Like what kind of investments you want to own outside of super, like shares or, stuff like that, bonds, whatever it is. But that will help you kind of like plan to meet all those kind of like financial goals for yourself. That's what I originally wanted to do. So I was working at CFS, hopefully, hoping to kind of get into that kind of like space. Did a year there in the kind of like contact center, helping people with their super queries and stuff
like that. It was phone mainly.
Oh, so it was and it wasn't. So I was in the complaints team. So anyone that had
fun.
Yeah. It was okay. It was okay. Like you just got to empathize with the people, because a lot of like contact centers, like, what do you know? A lot of the times contact centers are usually like younger kind of like professionals that haven't got that much experience with conversing or dealing with people. They're mostly uni kids, right? Or they're coming out of uni for the first time.
Yeah.
So they don't have that much experience. So a lot of the complaints and stuff that would come through are sometimes just their lack of experience with dealing with people. Because if you think about it as a consumer, right? Or a normal citizen, you've trusted this super fund with all your money. And if something goes wrong, you've got to be upset at someone. Yeah. Right? So, of course, they're going to call up the call center and be upset.
Yeah.
But it's some of these, some of the people that I suppose answer the phones or try to respond to it, they don't know how to deal with it. So that's where it kind of gets escalated. And then it's like, that's what I used to do is you used to look up, okay, well, what do they complain about? Right? What's actually wrong with their account? Then you figure all that kind of stuff out and you give them a call back. You say, hey, apologies, sorry about the recent interaction. This is what happened, and kind of walk them through that. Yeah. So I got sick of that pretty quickly though.
Oh, man. Call center environment's terrible.
Yeah.
Just for your mental health. I don't think anyone lasts longer than, 2-3 years.
No, it'd be tough too.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah. I think you got to be a special type of person if you hang around. Like sometimes you go into those places and it's, you speak to someone, they're like, oh, how long have you been here? They're like, 6 years. Like
the soul's gone, man.
Yeah, how are you doing it, It's so tough. But I suppose if you like it, you like it, right?
But there's a thing that I read up recently. I think it was called like empathy fatigue or something.
Okay.
Like maybe eventually, well, when you first start, you might have that skill set where you do empathize with someone. And then eventually, because you just keep hearing it day in, day out, oh, my super's broken or something, or lost all this money because of someone's investment advice. And eventually you just get really numb to it, and it's hard to start showing emotion. It's just really draining. That's what I've read recently. That can be something that can happen if you work in these sort of environments for too long. Not just in wealth advice or whatever, it's just like any sort of call center. So it could be like, I don't know, what could it even be? Just customer service.
General, yeah.
Don't work
Is it like a psychiatrist or some sort? Maybe they hear.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be a big thing, right? Because you got to be mentally drained. Yeah, because the conversations you have are never light or easy conversations either, right? If they come to you, they're at a certain point where it's like, this is it's going to be a heavy conversation, and you got to hear that day in, day out. Like at some point, you're going to be worn down. So I can totally understand that.
That's a new idea for the podcast.
Yeah.
Psychiatrist? Hey, any psychiatrists?
Any psychiatrists out there?
Send me a DM. I'm still yet to organize one. Let me know. So yeah, you finished up at CBA after a year?
Yeah, so I did CBA for a year. I jumped over to another fund manager or fund administrator called Link Group. So they're kind of like an administration fund. So they kind of do a lot of the admin work that other companies don't want to do. So for example, they do work for CFS now. So all the admin processing
CFS
type.
Meaning?
Colonial First State. So the company that I worked for. Yeah. Westpac, for example, they don't want to process this type of, I don't know, paperwork or something like that, where it's too manual.
Or something.
Like, that we don't want to have all those resources in-house. We'll just hire you guys. So I went over there, did defined benefits for a bit. So that's like a really old type of super, if you don't know about that.
Defined benefits.
Yeah. So defined benefits. So before we had super, it's there was this thing called defined benefits. So I think it was anything from, I don't want to get it wrong, but it's an older type. So basically it sets you up for your future, but it gives you a set amount that you will get every year from there on onwards after a certain after you retire. Yeah, so it's a way more fruitful I suppose retirement fund than what we've got available now, because now it's kind of like, when you work every month or every time you get paid, it's like 11%, right? Or 11.5 or something like that. But back then it's kind of like you work a certain amount of years, you get a certain amount of money every year after you retire. So the company
is a lot more?
It's a lot more. Yeah, it's generally a lot more. Yeah. But of course, like back then, it wasn't kind of like every company had to do it. It was only very like legacy companies that are kind of still around nowadays that can still offer it. Yeah, I don't know the specifics around like, if the company went into administration and then like what happens to all these people, but it was something that was available. Yeah.
Why did everyone have it easy?
Yeah.
All the boomers, that sort of generation?
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of, what it is? It was a lot of government employees that have these defined benefit funds. Like, for example, some teachers, some doctors and stuff like that would have these yearly amounts of like 100K or thereabouts.
Yeah. There was a thing where I know back then cops, when they retire, they get like 80% of their salary.
Yeah.
So they max it out right before they retire, try to get like the highest paying role, and you retire and you're getting like, I don't know, let's just say the equivalent of like 150K. I'm just making numbers up, but just a really high amount, which is like absurd. Same with government. When people retire back then, the old contract would have had them to also get a percentage of their salary every year, which is crazy to me, man.
Crazy. But that's so good, right? But then at the same time, it's kind of
like...
pull
the ladder up, man. We're not getting it anymore. Where's that?
Yeah, where did it all go? Why did it disappear when we entered the workforce? Yeah. So I did that for a bit. I thought that was a step up because, I wanted to do something a little bit different to call center. But it ended up being like a massive mistake. It was such a dead end. I was stuck there for nearly 2 years. I couldn't find anything else. So I went
a call center. Yeah,
so it wasn't a call center. I was like, look, it's... being a kid mentality, you're like, I want things and I want things quick. You know what I mean? So I was kind of like, because I saw like people around me kind of getting promoted and stuff, and I was like,
that's right.
I was like, well, I want to do something different. I want to get paid a little bit more, So I was like, all right, well, what's the next best thing that I don't have to do call center stuff, right? And it's administration. So you get these forms and then you process it for people, right? Like that's basically what I was doing, but for defined benefits. And when I did the interview and stuff like that, I should have took it as a red flag. Even the hiring manager was like, are you sure this is what you want to get into? You know what this is, right?
Wait, what?
Yeah, I kid you not.
Why does it sound so bad?
So hear me out. So I was like, it's I love doing stuff related to wealth management, and this is kind of the career path I want to go down, right?
Yeah.
I actually get to the job, and I kid you not, defined benefits is obviously, it's an old product, right? It's a legacy kind of a fun type situation or offering. So everyone that was in there was, on average, 60 plus years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Everyone that was on the floor was 60 plus years old. So I went there and I was like, man, I was just this chirpy little kid coming in, a year out of uni, and like, I'm energetic and I want to get shit done, right? But everyone's kind of just, it's like the worst, the horror image of a corporate life. You go into these little boxes where you're just doing paperwork for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And it's like, the really dim office lights, those kind of like
yellow.
Yeah,
it's
it's kinda-
not even LED. It's
Dude.
like kind of those halogen lights,
something like that.
flickering.
just imagine the horror image of being, of a corporate box.
Yeah,
Or, that
cubicles.
the
that
cubicles.
sort of life.
That was pretty much where I was at.
Everyone's ready to retire.
Everyone was there or thereabouts, and like I had just started, and I went in there and I was just like, where can I even go from here? So like when I was looking for other jobs, like a year, maybe a year and a half later, I was like, oh look, I'll try to get what I can out of it in terms of experience, right?
Yeah.
And when I did, I was like, okay, I don't think there's much left here for me to do. Like, what else can I do here? And then when I was starting to look, there was just like, because it was defined benefits experience. No one else was offering defined benefits.
It was so niche, right?
Yeah, it was so niche. It's kind of like, well, no one's going to offer it in the future either.
Yeah.
So it's like, where could you go from there?
Oh, so they're already kind of telling you.
Yeah, it was kind of like, the only thing that I could take from it was, the soft skills, right, of dealing with, certain types of customers or whatever it is, or clients. And then the processing experience, like, I could process X amount in a day or whatever it is. I exceed my targets, but that's it. But like the actual tangible, like, I've done this before and this is valuable at the next place. Yeah. Well, you couldn't really carry that across because no one else did defined benefits. So I really shot myself in the foot, by being a little bit impatient. Yeah, so I did that, and I was just like, all right, well, where can I really go from here? And then I was lucky because I saw on the internal job board there was a secondment for a process analyst, and I was like, and I was like, all right, and I was like, look, you know what? I've done a bit of process work before at CBA. Like CBA, they didn't have this, they didn't have like procedures and stuff like that back then. Like at least for the contact center, they might have had it in other areas, but it wasn't really a big thing. And then I was like, all right, well, a lot of people are stuffing up this certain type of thing, which was causing a lot of complaints. Yeah. So I was like, I'll draw up a procedure so that they can do the actual, the key entries and stuff like that. So they can't get it wrong. So when I started developing that stuff, I was like, all right, well, I'm pretty decent at this. I can kind of use logic to kind of develop this stuff. Yeah. So when I took it, when I was at Link Group, saw that internal job at secondment, I was like, okay, well, I've done something similar to this. Like, how hard could this be? So I went and applied for it, and they're like, yeah, look, it's a 6-month secondment. You'll just be process mapping. Yeah. This was kind of my first...
This corporate jargon.
Yeah. What's process mapping? Process mapping is, I suppose, on the surface, exactly what it means. Oh, it sounds like, right? Yeah. It's what's a process you do? So, for example, you're baking a cake.
You follow some steps.
Yeah, you follow some steps, but it's in a visual kind of like format. So it's like box 1, get the flour. Box 2, put the flour in a bowl. Box 3, put water in the bowl. It's pretty much that, but in a corporate setting. Yeah. It's kind of like
just making the recipe for how to do things.
Pretty much, yeah. So that was my first kind of experience into that, and I was like, all right, well, I enjoy this enough, and you get to interact with a lot of different people, right? Because you're talking to all different people, like all different sorts of people in the business. Could be tech, could be finance, could be marketing, could be customer service, anyone. So I was like, all right, well, I kind of enjoy talking to random people anyway. So let's try this out and let's see how far we can go with this. So so I took the secondment. I got the 6 months experience, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go now. Now we did. Yeah, we were like, I've got a jet now. I have to go. So and I jumped ship. I found a process improvement role at Virgin Money. Then I did that for a year. That was a bit of an interesting project because it was kind of like building out the processes for a digital bank. So it was like, it was basically all the offerings of a bank, but just on an app. Cause like,
I know it's online only.
Yeah. So everyone was kind of like, all the banks were kind of like moving in that direction, building out the apps and what was available on there and what kind of things you could do. So Virgin wanted to take that one step extra and kind of be one of the first like big bank offerings. So it was a subsidiary of Bank of Queensland at the time. Yeah. So what we were doing is basically going, all right, Bank of Queensland, what are your traditional processes from a retail setting? And then convert that or translate that into an online setting. Like how do we make these two things fit? Yeah. So I did that for about a year, and then I was like, all right, well, I'm kind of enjoying this, but it's the project kind of just seemed to be never ending, and it was starting to get a little bit stale.
Like climbing the corporate ladder?
No, not so much. Like the actual, like, in all projects, right? All these massive grand projects. Yeah. The timelines or the goalposts always kind of get shifted, right? Sometimes it gets shifted. It's like, oh, you need to do this. Now you need to do this. Or it's kind of like you needed to do this by this time. But now, because of other aspects of the program or the project that weren't going to meet that time, it's got to be extended. So it just never seemed to be an end goal. It just kept to be going. It just seemed to be going on forever.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, I'm not really enjoying this anymore because I keep doing the same thing and it never seems to get to an end point. So it's like, when do I get to do something different?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, I've kind of taken as much as I can out of this because, initially I wanted to kind of do the process improvement component of it, which is how do we improve this? But because they were so focused on, no, let's just get it to a point where we can even just launch this thing. That's what they were so concerned about. I was never going to get that chance. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to go and actually try somewhere else.
Yeah. So where did it end up? Your last corporate role? Because I know you bounced in between a couple of different places.
Yeah.
What was the last role before you left everything?
Oh, so the last one was, so from Virgin, I jumped over to the ASX, Australian Stock Exchange, if anyone's familiar with the acronym. But yeah, I jumped over to them doing basically the same thing. They had kind of a big transformation project that they were going through, but way more complex. They were doing a clearinghouse transformation. So clearinghouses, if for those that don't know, so you basically, when you trade, these clearinghouses would basically clear the money. So they take the money from the trade and then they transfer it into those accounts.
Right.
So it's a massive thing and it's like a legacy, kind of like a system.
Yeah.
Especially at the ASX because it's been around for so long. So they were kind of like, all right, well, we need to uplift this and move everything we do into a new one. So there's obviously, because it's an old system, there was so many kind of like underpinnings underneath it. So it was just really complex. But yeah, about a year in, I was like, that was when it was like right after COVID, I got the ASX job. So just after, but I suppose during that time of Virgin to ASX, it was kind of like COVID period. So that's when Saigon Brew was kind of like happening in the background. It's kind of like simmering away, kind of making moves in terms of like getting it to launch. And yeah, it got to a point where I was like, all right, well, Saigon Brew is going to launch, in a couple of months around May of 23. So, I kind of made the commitment. I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to launch something this big, I'm just going to give it 100%. So I'm just going to take some time away from corporate.
So you're not out of it entirely? Because some people are just like I'm over it. I don't want to keep going.
Yeah, at that point I was checked out. Yeah. Like, because I thought Saigon Brew was going to be the end all be all.
Yeah.
I thought, this is going to be perfect. Like, I'm going to make all the money that I need to make straight away and I won't need to go back to work. Right. So that was my thought process.
Yeah.
Obviously it's a kind of a naive, mindset to have. You're going to succeed the moment you do it. So, so that's why I decided to leave ASX in 2023. Jumped, left, and I was like, all right, I'll go hard on Saigon Brew, and went for about I'd say 2 years, like a year and a half or so, and I suppose Saigon Brew wasn't really meeting, those financial goals that I had initially set. Really lofty goals, if I had to be honest.
I know when you start a business, you're usually running at a loss for like couple years.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
it.
Eventually it turns around.
Yeah, well, that was it. So it was kind of like, I had that thought that it's got a little niche in the market. I'm gonna capitalize on this, and no one else has done it, so it's gonna blow up. And in a sense, like, people did gravitate towards it. Like, I'll be forever grateful for the people that supported us right from the beginning.
Yeah,
but to what we learned, or throughout kind of the process of Saigon Brew, is that it can't subsist on just like a few independents around the area that or a few shops or a few grocery stores around Sydney. You need to get like big contracts for it to make you money. You know what I mean? For you to be like, all right, well, I can quit my job now. So what I mean by big contracts is like from big retailers. Because, when you sell to your mom and pop grocery stores, right, which we were doing for the first year or so, we were just driving around. We would have coffee in the back of our hatchbacks and stuff like that. And we would just go into a store and just say, hey, I've got this coffee. Like, it's a little bit different to what you offer. Do you want to try some? Like, buy it and then sell it. And then, like that could get you to a certain point, right? But to make like an actual decent living out of it, it's got to be on a much larger scale than that. So that's where we learn, all right, well, how do we get it to the next stage, which is, into the retailers and stuff, right?
Oh, on that point, what was the first store that you
got it to? So first actual grocery store was Eastland.
Eastland Supermarket, top of John Street.
Yeah, top of John Street. That was the first one, and it was because of I had a friend in the group that was related to the owners of the store.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so kind of got away in that way, and it was like, again, it was kind of they had to take a chance on it, right? Because they got Vietnamese coffee in there already, like Highlands. If you know Highlands,
yeah, they do have.
they got
coffee.
so there's a few. I suppose there are a couple of other Vietnamese coffee brands out there, but they're from like they're Vietnamese brands themselves. So obviously we're Vietnamese coffee, but we're an Australian brand.
Yeah.
They're Vietnamese brands. They're so Highlands is Highlands, which is the coffee chain. But then there's one called King's Coffee, which is G7. Trung Nguyen,
the red and black.
So the red and black.
That's
so the
big one.
bit of tea, right? So I'm not sure if you know this, but Trung Nguyen, so that guy who owns the G7, him and his wife, they divorced.
Yeah.
They divorced because he decided to be like a monk or something like that. He became kind of like a hermit.
Is this the Kev Jumba story?
Something like that. Yeah, legit. He had so much money. So apparently what he did was he bought some land in some remote part of Vietnam, carved out a hole in a mountain, and lived in a cave.
Wait, it's like full on cave story.
It's something like that, right? But he wanted to be alone basically and wanted to become a bit more, I suppose, religious.
Okay.
So he did that, and then his wife was kind of like, "Oh, what's happening? Like, we can't do this forever. You can't just keep disappearing." So they divorced.
Yeah.
And when they divorced, she decided to open up her own coffee thing, which is King's Coffee. So they kind of offer a similar offering to Trung Nguyen because that's all they've known, right? That's all she knows.
Yeah. So their brands, I assume their most popular product is the 3-in-1 coffee. Yeah. It's like instant coffee, which has the coffee powder. I think it's milk and sugar.
Like a sweetener. Yeah.
Very good.
It's actually really good. Yeah. Like any of you Vietnamese listeners out there or viewers, if you ask your parents about G7, like they'll tell you
they all know it.
Yeah, they all know it. Every Asian, I'm sure even non-Vietnamese families would know it as well. It's just one of those popular I suppose sachets, right? It's always in an Asian household, but so she did that. So she decided to open up her own thing, and then she got into like ready to drink coffee as well. So she got canned. So in Australia, those are the two primary Vietnamese coffee brands that are from Vietnam. And then we kind of like entered the market as an Australian brand. But I suppose the risk, right, for some of these Asian grocers that took us is, they're so used to buying these Vietnamese canned coffees straight from Vietnam, and it would end up being something like, I don't know, like 60 cents a can or something.
Like profit? Or
like, no. So that's that's how much it would cost them.
Wow.
And then to sell it, they sell it for like $1.50, right?
I swear they're more than that.
Maybe more. But I suppose what I'm trying to say is like that's how cheap it would be for them, right? But obviously because we came in and we're like, oh no, we're an Australian brand.
It costs more.
Costs a little bit more to make, right? Yeah. They go, why would I take this when I've got a Vietnamese coffee brand that I can buy for 50 cents?
Yeah.
Like we've got to get them over that kind of hurdle as well.
Yeah.
So that was a bit, that's why, so that's why Eastland, they took a chance on us, went in there. That was our first one. So after there, we snowboard. We did a bit of
Henley.
Yeah, Henley. That's right.
They're in Cabra now.
Yeah, they're in Cabra. So Henley in Cabra and the one in Burwood as well. K Mall, Lidcombe, Eastwood. If you guys, if you know that one, Korean store. Yeah. Tai Ki IGA in Haymarket.
Oh yes, in the shopping centre.
Yeah. So in there, they've got a store out in Meadowbank as well. Another IGA.
So you're just like emailing these like random grocers, like IGA. Who do you even talk to in IGA?
So
in Haymarket.
So that was an interesting one because we were we realized like, we've got to try to get some bigger customers, so we've got to go try IGAs rather than just your normal like supermarket, like grocery stores, right?
Yeah.
So we're like, we'll go into these IGAs. Like you had to walk in to sell it to them, to the buyer, right? To the store manager or something like that. So we walked into Tai Ki IGA and we're like, can we speak to someone about, selling some coffee?
Yeah.
And then the store owner comes out. His name's Daniel. He's a cool guy. So he came out and he's like, I've seen you guys before. And I'm like, nice. And he's like, yeah, I've seen you guys, your ads. And pretty much everyone every kind of like IGA or grocery store owner that took us in for the first time, they're like, I've seen your ads online. It's been, and the first thing they'd say is, it's been hounding me. It's been following me everywhere and stuff. I'm like, Sorry, like I don't know. That's just how meta works. So you like if you watched the
Are
stuff,
you spending like the same amount as Udi is for their ads during winter?
definitely not, dude.
Because they are so relentless every winter. You gotta try this Udi.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that's their period that sells the most, right? Like you've got to pump it as hard as you can.
Yeah, they
But,
just have so many.
yeah. But it works for them.
It works.
I mean, they're massive. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we were glad, I suppose, in a sense that the ads were working. But yeah, so he saw stuff and he's like, oh yeah, I was waiting for you guys to like reach out. Otherwise, I was
He
going
knew it was gonna happen.
Yeah, so he was like, he was kind of like waiting for it to happen. Otherwise, he was like, otherwise I would have just reached out to you guys. But I was interested in taking your stuff in.
Oh wow.
And yeah, so it was a really easy deal. It was like, like what's the pricing and stuff. Gave him the pricing, and he was like, all right, look, let's try. Let's see how you go. And then that's pretty much it. Yeah, but that was an interesting one. Like a couple of
Sounds like
places.
one of the easiest deals.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're a bit fortunate that way because because that store particularly, like himself, he's willing to kind of like try different products. But some other places are not so much like that, right? Like they're kind of like, oh well, we've got, I don't know, 5 other coffees already, including Deg, including Boss. It's like, why would I take one of them out, which I know makes money for me, and put you in, which I don't. So that's always a difficult one to kind of get them over. So you've got to always kind of like warm them up. You go, all right, well, I'll give you a deal. I'll kind of give you, I don't know, 20% off the first order or something. Or you buy 6, I'll give you 2 free or something like that. Yeah. Give them, you got to kind of draw them in, entice them a little bit. So, but it's always really, really difficult because then once you do that, they're always expecting a deal the next time was around as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You
Builds
set the precedent, right? Or you set
yeah.
the expectation, and they're always going to be like, all right, well, what's the next deal? Or what's the next one? And if you don't give it to them, they're like, all right, I'll buy less or whatever it is. So it's always a hard one, man. But yeah, I suppose a bit of insight into how the retailers work, because I want this conversation to be valuable for others as well. But so retailers, IGA is their independent network. So a lot of these IGA stores that you see out there are independently owned. Like could be just a mom and pop, had some money,
franchised.
Yeah, kind of like a franchise. Yeah, the branding is like franchise. So they follow a kind of like an interesting model. So the store is owned by you, right? But if it's within a certain territory or something like that, they'll have state managers or area managers come out, and just to try to get you to align to them as much as possible in terms of like branding, offerings, and stuff like that. Yeah, so you've got them, but then you've also got like kind of like retail groups that have more than one IGA. So, for example, Romeo's is a big one in the CBD. If you've seen them.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so Romeo's is a big one. They started in SA, but they've got a whole bunch of IGAs, kind of like in the CBD eastern suburbs kind of area. But that's the two kind of like groups of types of owners. But I suppose the good thing is, not unlike your Woolworths and your Coles, where you've got to go through this other process, which I'll tell you about. You can go directly to these individual store owners and say, "Hey, I've got a new product. Like, would you like to try it?" And you can kind of just strike a deal with them straight off the bat. But for the bigger chains,
so the two major brands that everyone knows of, you got Woolies and Coles.
Yeah. So for the two major brands, and even the others like Costco, Aldi, your 7-Elevens, all your big corporate kind of like petrol convenience or grocery stores.
7-Eleven would do pretty well.
Yeah, it would, right? But they all follow a similar model, which is they've got these things called category reviews. So a set period during the year, they'll basically review the offerings that they've got. So each category's got like a category manager. So for example, someone looks after milk, someone looks after chips, someone looks after soft drinks, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of like segregates it. But basically what you got to do is you pitch a product during these category reviews to either entice them to go, all right, well, I'll take a chance on you this period and then we'll see how you do. But when you're trying to get in, think about how many other bloody drink brands are trying to get a spot at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's incredibly difficult to try to get in that way. Yeah, so I suppose that's a difference. So if you're like when you're starting out, the IGAs and your independents are probably the best place to get a foothold in terms of like a customer base. And then when you go to the big retailers, you go, all right, well, I've got X amount of IGAs, and if you get some of the bigger name IGA groups, it has a bit more weight to it. They go, oh, I sell to Romeos and I do X amount a week or something like that, you know, the category manager will look at you thinking, all right, well, these guys, I know who these guys are, and they buy this much. Well, if we take you and we spread it to these stores, you're likely to succeed, or we're likely to make money. They're not thinking about you, but they're thinking about their like if they can make money from the thing, right? But yeah, so everyone, all the big corporate brands work like that. So your 7-Elevens will work like that. Or BP, Shell, all of them, they all do these category reviews. So if you're going to try to do it yourself, like when we tried doing it ourselves, IGAs and
start small.
Yeah. And then you've got to have evidence, really, just to.
Well, how hard is it to get a meeting with these big brands? Because I assume there's probably a long line of people that are trying to get their foot in the door with these big brands.
You can do it a couple of ways. So one is just going through the front door. Right?
Go to the head office?
No, front door. I mean, as in, you put you kind of submit your offering, all right? Every category review
as soon as a form or something.
Yeah, so you've got to fill, you got to give them your pitch deck, give them the pricing, send them samples and stuff like that. That's your straight door, right? And then you've got other avenues, which is you can go through distributors, right? So, for example, there are food and beverage distributors that may have relationships with some of these chains already.
Yeah.
And periodically you can but then that's a whole other thing as well. So for the distributors, you still have to pitch your product to them for them to even take you on board, right? Because what they would do is they basically buy your product from you and then they on-sell to the retailer. Because they're a distributor, they have a lot of different products. They generally have a bit more influence in terms of like, all right, well, I already sell to, I don't know, let's just say Woolworths, for example. Right? I sell drinks, but I sell 5 different drinks to them already. So then the category manager they're working with is generally a little bit more open to listening to what they've got. So, but obviously to go through that way, you've still got to pitch your product to the distributor and sell it to them. So it's very think Shark Tank, right?
Yeah,
Shark Tank,
so many levels.
Mate, that's pretty much what you're doing until you crack one of the big retailers. Once you crack one of the big retailers, then everyone, because once you're in there, everyone's got visibility. Everyone can see what's out there now. Yeah. So if you're new in there, the other distributors or other buyers will know. Okay, well you guys are in here. You know, you guys are obviously selling. If if Woolworths is willing to take a chance, then we'll give you a chance. Yeah. Type thing. So.
And I'm envisioning it do well, this particular drink, in Woolies that are based in the CBD, or Coles, whatever, because people like to grab things and go. Because I notice when I go to the Coles nearby my office, it's like the moment you walk in, it's like sandwiches, ready to eat meals, microwave meals. So I assume that there's a section, I probably haven't looked properly, there's like a section for drinks. Oh, actually there is, near the self-checkouts. There's like hundreds of a lot of fridges just lined up along the self-checkouts, and where people can just grab something and go. And this is probably where this would fall in quite well. People are just like, oh, I don't want to wait for a coffee, I'll just grab a can.
Yeah, that's right.
So is that what you're trying to go for?
Yeah, so we're, that's ideally where we'd live, like you said, like around metro areas, the quick grab and go kind of places is probably where it would be. If it's more in the suburban kind of places, the product would more likely sit in the, like if you notice, if you pay attention to the milk fridges in Woolworths, let's say at Cabra or something like that, that's where Boss Coffee and the other coffee brands sit.
Oh, yes.
So if we were to get in, that's where we would be as well. Yeah, so a bit of insight into like how Woolworths works. It's so the drink fridge at the front and the drink fridge at the back, 2 different category managers.
2 different managers?
2 different managers, even though it's drinks.
These fridges.
Yeah, so these separate fridges, but still different managers. Yeah. So the managers, it's not like each Woolworths store has one particular fridge manager. Maybe they do, but the ones that actually make the decision to buy your product is at like a state level. Yeah. Like there's one state kind of like buyer. Yeah. And he'll buy for all the stores in that state or region or whatever it is. Yeah, that's kind of how they divide it up. So it's not like there's, let's say, 700 Woolworths stores and there's 700 bloody drink fridge managers or something like that. It's not like
one
that.
for the chips, one for the flour and the sugar.
Yeah, no, but they do break it up into a lot of like different segments, right? It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's different because you've got the fridge at the front, which are the impulse buys.
Yeah,
and then the ones at the back, which are like the run-of-the-mill standard sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Like if you notice, like what you'll see in a lot of the drink fridges that are close to the checkout, there's a lot of like the quick grab one kind of cans, like energy drinks, soft drinks.
Coke, yeah.
But then you won't see those anywhere else in the
2 litre milk there.
Yeah, exactly, right. But you won't see a lot of those kind of like cold soft drinks anywhere else in the grocery store. The only other place you'd see it is just in the aisle, where it's like ambient temperature.
Powerade.
Yeah. So it's like it's a little bit different. And then Woolworths is obviously broken into two, right? So it's not just Woolworths, it's Woolworths Metro as well.
Yep.
But they're a whole different buyer as well.
Wait, what? I thought it was the same company.
No, so it's the same company, but obviously the way they operate is slightly different, right? Yeah. So Woolworths Metro is a little bit more agile in terms of like, everything's got to be quick grab and go, small,
That's right.
Small kind of like serving sizes and things like that. Yep. So the buyers are generally a little bit different there. But
sure.
I suppose the good thing is like if they see something that the kind of like the main Woolworths will take, the Woolworths Metro generally takes as well. Yeah. Right. So it's not like you have to. You may have to pitch to them if let's just say the main Woolworths doesn't take your product and you go, all right, well, let me pitch to the Woolworths Metro buyer. Let's see if they will take it, right? So you could do that. But generally they can piggyback off the other way around.
Oh, but you can sell to Metro first, right?
You can do that. But of course, like how many Woolworths Metros are out there? It's considerably. Yeah, exactly.
That's the only one I know of.
It's not that many, right? Yeah. It's considerably less than the main line of Woolworths. So So like if you want to get into any of the big retailers, go for Coles, go for Woolworths, or go for Costco. Like is the bigger boys like
Costco. We got to sell in bulk.
That's right.
So you boxes.
Yeah, that's it. So I suppose for Woolworths, they'll happily take like single items, right? So one can, or and I suppose another thing is, let's say you might have seen like, let's say V in 4-packs, right?
Oh yeah.
And then you see V in the fridges. Yeah. Right. So what do you think? Are they different? Are they managed differently?
I mean, yeah, probably.
Yeah, they are.
Because one's in bulk.
That's it.
Yeah.
So they manage differently by different buyers. So so that's another thing, right? But a big thing about Costco is Costco likes bulk. Yeah. They like it only for themselves. So like that's exclusive. So you go, all right, so let's just say V usually sells their cans or packs in 4. But if V pitched to Costco, for example, they go, all right, well, Costco will say, well, I want you to offer me a bulk pack that you don't offer to anyone else. They'll probably be like, all right, well.
So its own number.
Yeah, so they'll be like, I'll do. Oh, hello, kitty.
The cat's being a super nice cat. Context.
Yeah, so a bit of insight into Costco. You'll have to buy, like, they'll get you to offer them kind of like a bulk pack that you don't offer anyone else. So, for example, you might have to offer them a 12-pack that you don't sell anywhere else.
Oh, God. Yeah, so you have to develop another line. Box of packaging.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, that's how the primary big players like to do it. Aldi is a bit different. Aldi is we haven't had too much interaction with Aldi in terms of like their buyers, but from what we did try to pitch to them, and they weren't interested in taking us at all. But if you kind of like just, I suppose, assess their lineup or their products, a lot of it is done in-house. So a lot of the things that they do is like Aldi branded.
It's their brand.
Yeah, it's their own. Yeah. So they do a lot of that, I suppose, in a way to control the pricing.
Yeah, and there's more profit margin.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. So it's a little bit harder to get like a startup brand in there. Yeah. Unless you're established or something like that, or lines with them. Sometimes they'll take you in the specials. You know how they've got that massive
special buys.
Yeah, aisle in the middle full of specials. Maybe you'll get in there, but it'll be pretty hard.
I'm trying to think about what other brands they have in there in terms of drinks. So I can think about other in-house chocolate milks and stuff.
Yeah, chocolate milk. They've got Dare in there. Yeah, they've got a Dare, but they've got like a really big one. It's not your normal size one. It's like a liter one or something like that. Yeah, something really big. But there's not that many coffee. Not much coffee in there. Even if even if you think about their soft drinks and the juices,
it's all theirs.
it's all their own kind of stuff, or really obscure brands that you've never seen before.
Yeah. So it must be really tough to get in that market.
Yeah, so it's a bit of insight into, I suppose, the different retail players. Yeah. And then obviously the other segment is the petrol and convenience, right? So you bundle them kind of all together, which is your 7-Elevens, your Shells and stuff like that. They're incredibly difficult to get in because that's their business is the actual convenience side. Not so much the petrol.
They make I think barely any money.
That's right.
4 cents a litre or something.
The margins are incredibly slim there, but that's why you go in and you try to buy a soft drink, it's like $6. They're all you don't sell this anywhere else like that. And they're trying to recoup some of the money that they lost on the petrol, right? So so obviously when you go in there, it's a bit more challenging because every drink brand goes, all right, well, I know petrol and convenience can move products, so I'll try to get into a Shell or into a BP or something like that. So, if you think about Woolworths, they're kind of like all the pitch decks that they see of all the different products. Imagine how many you'd see at a petrol and convenience place, right? And
I assume you'd have to be more established to be able to get into them. Yeah. Because they want to be selling a lot.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so it's a bit challenging as well from that aspect. If you're, a startup, they don't know who you are.
Yeah,
that's always a big thing to try to overcome, right? Like they don't know who you are. That's why you've just got to get your foothold in the market as much as you can, so that they can see you everywhere.
Yeah,
and customers can see you everywhere outside of these petrol and convenience. But eventually they'll spot it, and hopefully you'll get a chance at getting in.
Or just know someone.
Yeah, or know someone. Yeah, that always works too. Yeah.
I know you do balance this with your full-time work, right? Mm-hmm. You have another job.
Yep.
So where are you at now?
I'm at Zip Money.
Zip Money, yeah.
Yeah, buy now, pay later.
Yeah, that thing. So you balance that with Saigon Brew on the side. How hard is that? So you got your office job, I assume Monday to Friday.
Yep.
9 to 5, and then you've got this that you're working on the weekends, or?
I work... So, if you work for Zip, don't listen to this. If you're my employer, don't listen to this. So I do both. I try to do both at the same time, right? But I kind of segment the duties. So, for example, right now I still do process. So I'm a business process manager now at Zip. And a lot of what my job really entails every day is kind of like just meeting people like for an hour or so, discussing what they do for a process, and then kind of like project based. So you do kind of get to set your own schedule in a sense. Of course, you've got a timeline, but during a week, you're like, all right, well, I want to have 5 meetings with 5 people. So you're locked in for 5 hours a week. So you kind of like every other hour outside of that, if there's Saigon Brew stuff that I need to do, I'll do it in between. So that's kind of how I segment the duties. So for example, on a regular day, let's say I've got a shipment going out, I've got an order I've got to pack, and then I've got online stuff I've got to pack, and then I've got Zip stuff. That's how I'll kind of do it. I'll do my meeting, and then I'll quickly pack the online orders, wait for the postage guy to come.
Oh my God.
And then if there's an order that needs to go out on a pallet, I'll kind of like just have that pre-packed. And then when the delivery guy or the courier comes, then I'll just kind of like, they generally just pick it up themselves.
Yeah.
They've got a little pallet jack that'll wheel it onto the truck, and then they just take it out.
Oh, so you're full remote?
Yeah, full remote. Yeah. So I don't have to do the deliveries and stuff myself. Oh. Yeah, if that's what you mean.
No, your Zip.
Oh, no. So Zip, I do go into the office, but they're pretty flexible in terms of like the working from home arrangements.
Yeah, nice.
So I do like two days a week, 3 days a week, sometimes if I need to. But generally, it's like 1 to 2 days a week I'll go in. So every other day, I'm always at the warehouse in Campbelltown.
You just in your office, and you're working from there.
Pretty much working from there. So I do a bit of both. Flicking between the different laptops. I got to unplug this, plug that back in when I've got a meeting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the balance of that is, it's okay. It's not incredibly challenging.
Like what if work gets busy and then you can't pack orders or whatever?
Yeah, well, there's always that side to it too, right? But at the same time, it's like, oh well, if I kind of just block time out if that's So that's what I kind of do. But
is it just you running the whole office, the warehouse?
It is now. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I thought you would have at least hired some people to start doing some, processing the orders or something.
No, not yet, man.
Yeah, I feel that, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just me doing it all.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. You're juggling your full-time job, and then you've got to do the editing and everything for this too. So
pretty much.
That's kind of how I juggle both of it. Lucky, like like the marketing side of it, I don't have to do too much. Like, we work with someone to do that.
Oh, you got Sony edits and stuff.
Yeah. So, obviously I'm there for like the shoots and stuff, but the actual editing and the posting and stuff, we get some help to do that. Yeah. But all in all, it's can juggle, because I'm lucky that my full-time job is still pretty flexible, can kind of like work around it. But at the Saigon Brew side as well, it's not super intensive. So
it sounds really full on though, having to.
Yeah, well, maybe that's just kind of me coping with it, right? Like me kind of playing it down so that I can kind of absorb it and digest it in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does get a lot. But at the same time, it's just like, well, if I don't do it, who's going to do it now?
Yeah, true.
If I don't do it, who's going to do it, right?
So you cut down costs to use yourself as labor.
Yeah, that's
just your time.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah. Any particular achievements you're proud of? Milestones? Maybe when you hit like, I don't know, 1,000 orders or something? Or
yeah, well, a big one for us was when we started to, like, big achievement or something I took away was when we started going interstate in terms of like retail stores.
Huge.
Yeah, so I think we hit around 150 grocery stores late last year through distributors. So they started reaching out to other stores, and it was kind of a good feeling for us because like, there are people. It's in grocery stores other than states that we live in, or I live in at the moment. So it's like it's starting to spread a little bit more, and it's like that was a big thing. I suppose the other thing was big milestone was just being able to launch the thing, like that was huge. Because
just launching
the business, it was a massive.
How long did it take from the idea to fruition?
I say it'd take about a year or so. Yeah, thereabouts. Of course, especially because I suppose the time it took was because we did a lot of product testing and it was coming from overseas. But of course, like if there was no COVID situation, we could fly freely. It would have been a little bit quicker, right? Like you just go, we'll fly over there, we'll check everything out, get all the products done, all the samples and stuff like that, and you kind of just check it all in one go. Yeah, that would speed up things a little bit more. But when we hit about 150 stores, that was a big milestone for us. The launching was big for us. Obviously, like I'm sure for yourself as well, that would have been a big thing. Like how long were you thinking about doing a podcast, and when you finally did the first one, that would have been a big moment for you, right? Like that's probably something that I'll remember for like, even though let's say 5 years Saigon Brew, I don't know, disappears or whatever it is. Like, I'll always kind of take that away. Like that was like, I kind of saw it through at least.
You did it.
Yeah.
And you're not wondering about, what if I started my own brand?
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, hopefully there's a few more milestones coming this year. I won't say
something new.
Yeah, I won't say too much, but yeah, hopefully it all works out. Yeah, you guys would have heard it here first if you see something big.
Because I'm wondering, you've got 3 flavors, and I know there is room for more.
Yeah.
You've got the salted coffee that the Viets do also make.
Yeah.
Are there more flavors in the pipeline?
Could be. That could be a way we kind of expand.
Yeah.
Like you touched on it there. Like Vietnamese people are pretty experimental with their coffees, right?
Salted egg coffee. That's big in Hanoi.
That's right. Salted egg coffee. You got your salt coffee. You've got your coconut coffee.
Ooh.
Yeah. So there's I think there's an avocado one as well, I want to say.
I just know Sintoba. So that's something else. It's like
that's the
avocado shake.
Yeah. But yeah, like, Vietnamese people, they're really open to kind of experimenting. So that, there's plenty of choices for us to keep going down that path. But yeah, like it's like, because we're still, in terms of like life cycle of a brand, like we're still relatively young. We're only about to hit our 2nd year. So, I think right now we just want to focus on just cementing the foothold that we've got, just making sure that people know that we've got these 3 flavors first, and then we kind of expand and offer more, right? But yeah, we'll see.
Is there a growth of Asian flavors, in particular Vietnamese? Because I know there's also the beer company that's popped up, Saigon
Beer.
Is it called Saigon Beer? It's that light colored one, white and blue.
Oh, that's right.
United Brewing Co.'s Saigon Dry.
That's
quite recent.
I think I might have seen that.
Yeah.
But there is, I suppose, similar to how there's been that big explosion in popularity of Korean food and Korean culture.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bit of, I suppose, changing winds that, Vietnam seems to be the next one up.
I mean, you're seeing Cabra, right? You got the, what do we have? You got K Barbecue, top of John Street. There's a photo booth and there's a karaoke on John Street. I never would have expected that.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. So much influence. And I think, people are starting to, just more broadly, right? Like people are just traveling a little bit more now.
Yeah.
Right? Like just more broad. So they're kind of experiencing other cultures, other foods. And there's definitely a rise in, I suppose, just Asian food and Asian flavors and culture in general. So hopefully, Vietnamese stuff is the next big thing. So
you're trying to push that because you are involved in some local community stuff. You're in the Moon Festival and also the Liverpool Lantern and Lights Festival.
Yeah, that's right. So we did a bit of that. We did Lunar New Year with the Fairfield City Council as well. So we're kind of always there trying to keep a presence within the community. Obviously, this is where the roots started. So we always want to kind of like pay homage to that and try to give back. I suppose some like short, medium term goals, like want to ideally be a bit more involved and try to offer a little bit more to give back to the community. But I think just with the full time stuff that I'm trying to do as well, it's a bit of a challenge to try to get all that happening. But it's definitely like in the back of my mind, what was the few things that as to why I started Saigon Brew was obviously one, just wanted to do something for myself. Two, I wanted to do something related to being Vietnamese, but also three, have an opportunity to be able to give back in some kind of way.
Like spreading the culture around.
Yeah, spreading the culture, but also kind of like hopefully getting into some charity work or something like that, just be able to provide value,
I think a lot of companies do that. Sort of, like food runs, they send stuff to Vietnam. I know there was one for the school laptops. People were collecting the... Were you there? Did you get school laptops when you were in school?
You know what? I went to school when it just started.
Which color was yours?
Red.
Oh, okay. So I think that was the really crappy ones, right?
Really
crappy ones. Really bad as well, the green ones. And I remember someone was like collecting them and refurbishing them, sending them off to Vietnam. So there's probably a lot of opportunity for something like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Able to do something. Yeah, there's heaps of that.
Yeah.
How important is working with the community in terms of building your brand identity?
Okay, it's important, right? So I suppose to kind of just stay true to like who we are in a sense, and kind of like share that because I suppose I don't know how well known Cabra is in all the other states, but I feel like a lot of people that do recognize Cabramatta know it as kind of a hub of Southeast Asian culture in a way.
Depends how old they are. Some of them know it as the drug capital.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
still got that misconception now.
Yeah.
Still that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, but it's like I suppose that's why it's massively important to us to try to stick true to that in some way or another, like through working with Fairfield City Council, doing some of those community kind of like festivals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to really answer that question.
Because I know there's a few brands that do pop up every time there's those sort of festivals. You see them around and you recognize them.
Yeah.
No, I can't name any.
I suppose just more just general kind of talking to you. It is important for us to pop up, right, and kind of like show face in the community and stuff like that. But at the same time, what I notice from like kind of because like what we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do with the brand is kind of like get it away, not like spread it, right? And you want to get it in front of eyes that don't see it often. So yes, it's important, I suppose, to kind of like stay here and show up when you can to show people that you're from here and you're still around. But at the same time, it's like, you got to focus a lot of energy on trying to get it out there as well.
True.
So it is important to, I suppose, stick true to that in a sense, but I suppose the focus and all the energy shouldn't be here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I want to spread it out there a bit more. But yeah, how am I going to do that? Fuck, I don't know, man. Like with the full-time job and stuff like that, it's a lot. So like we used to do a lot of markets and stuff like that, like you said, right?
Yeah.
But haven't really been able to do too much of that more recently just because of the, like full-time commitment and stuff like that. So yeah, it's but something I definitely want to get back to trying to do.
So you run everything then? Like just you?
Yeah,
marking,
pretty much.
And all that?
Yeah.
The whole warehouse, just you in there?
Just me.
Far out, man.
Yeah.
Probably get free labor sometimes from like your partner or something. No?
She's got her own stuff to worry about, man.
Oh,
Like,
shit,
I wouldn't get her to come and do stuff. No, I can generally manage it myself. Yeah, it's all right. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I get it, but at the same time, like I said before, if I don't do it, who does or who will?
It's kind of like the Chinese restaurant where you got your kid doing free labor serving customers while they do the homework in the front.
That's
so
it.
maybe you'll do that.
Maybe
They do the homework and then they're packing orders in
Yeah,
between.
maybe. Yeah.
Take any inspiration or any particular role models when you were trying to start this business?
Oh, role models. Role models. My mum played a big role in kind of like my I suppose my aspirations to do something for myself and kind of do more. Like my mum's a business owner herself. Like she's Vietnamese, so she's obviously owns a few nail salons.
Classic.
Yeah. So, but like she's always wanted to do something a little bit different, right? Like that's how she kind of like thinks and runs her business as well. So it is a traditional kind of like nail salon in a way, but she tries to do things differently. But I suppose I took a lot of inspiration away from that she had the balls to kind of take that leap.
Yeah.
And kind of go for it. So I was always like, it was always when I was a kid, in my mind, it always felt safe to try, in a sense. Like I suppose some other people thought or would think a lot harder and go, oh, this is a massive risk. Like I'm a bit worried. I don't want to do this type of thing. But in my mind, like, yes, it's a risk and it's going to be hard to do. But at the same time, I was never scared of doing it. It's kind of, I accepted the risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
do you mean like you had some safety net in a sense?
Oh, safety? No, I wouldn't say even a safety net. Like my parents, like they never helped me with the business.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, because I saw like my mum do it and she was okay with taking the risk. I was a little bit like willing to accept that risk.
Yeah.
And like I would just deal with whatever happened after. But like a lot of people get paralyzed by the fact that, oh, if I do this for the first time and then I might lose all my money, like that would scare them off completely.
Oh yeah.
But in my mind, it's kind of like I would start it. And if I do lose my money on it, it's okay because I tried and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
So that she gave me that. So she kind of gave me the confidence to try.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I took a lot away from that. And part of the reason why, like I even did, because if you think about, I suppose the business itself, right? A lot of people, like, when we first started it, a lot of people said like, oh, like, man, you have, like this is something different. Like not a lot of people try to start their own like drink brand or something like that. At least here in Australia, you don't hear, I suppose, too much of that, right?
Drinks in general? Not just coffee, really?
Yeah, like a drink brand, like your own kind of like ready to drink coffee or something, or a drink brand.
What do they mean in general?
Just more more broadly, right?
Okay.
It's kind of like
drink brand. I can't think of any. I just know right now Prime. Logan Paul.
Yeah, well, yeah. Sorry, but they're a little bit
huge.
Yeah, they're massive though, right? But yeah, it's interesting enough. Like obviously they were massive when it first started, but they started to tank pretty quickly in Australia.
Yeah, I think they're like all on clearance right now.
Yeah,
like no one buys it.
That's it. Well, they only just rode the trend, right? Like they're just like, oh, they'll ride the wave of their popularity. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, mum and dad kind of gave me a lot of confidence in that, and they'd always kind of like back me up and say, look, even if you try and it doesn't work out, like you still gave it a try. Like if you were homeless, we would take you in type stuff. So in that sense, like I had that safety net. But I think more valuable to me was just like, I suppose, the confidence they instilled to say, just give it a crack. Like, if it doesn't work out, just worry about it later.
Yeah. If you have the idea, it's really, I would say it's best to try and give it your all if you can.
Yeah, that's
put the effort in. Because I think one thing I really don't want in my life is regret. I don't want to be old where I'm like, oh, I should have started a podcast when the idea came in, or should have traveled more when I was younger.
Yeah.
I really don't want that in my life. So if you guys are in that position where you're kind of in a crossroads, if you're in the position too, of course, to try and give it a go. Give it a go.
That's it. Because like at the end of the day, if you've got a great idea, it's only, for a dream or something like that, it's only ever going to stay a dream unless you act on it. You've got to take some kind of actionable step. So yeah, like Trung said, if you're not in the position, don't take the leap right away.
Yeah, if you got kids or something, you need a stable job, you need the maternity leave benefits, whatever, then yeah, of course that would make more sense. But if you're young, no kids yet, or maybe you don't have a big mortgage to pay off, then yeah, go for it. See what happens.
See what happens, man. That's it.
Yeah, in terms of the future, so you're saying you do have big plans for it. Can you reveal anything yet? Maybe a hint?
Well, it's more... So, like, we were talking about the big retailers before.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the plan this year is to get into one of the big retailers. We're having some progress, but I don't want to kind of say definitively, like with...
No promises.
Yeah, no promises, because obviously, it's not locked in until it's signed and inked and you've got the bloody agreement. So, so that's kind of in the works, and obviously that'll be another massive milestone, for Saigon Brew if that does kind of materialize. So that's kind of like what I'm working really hard towards now. But and then after that, who knows? Maybe we'll have an egg coffee.
That would be so sick. I really want to try salted egg coffee in a can. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, it would be interesting for sure. And how, like, I suppose there would be an interesting challenge to try to overcome as well, right?
You can't even make that.
Yeah, exactly. How do you make that from a development side? Like, how does that even come together?
Yeah, actually, another question I had is, how do you measure the nutrition info?
Oh, so there's labs that generally do it. So when you've got like a list of ingredients, in Oz, if you manufacture it here, there's labs that do it here.
Yep.
But there's obviously wherever you manufacture, generally there are labs that will test and kind of like measure the amount of nutritional info that's in it. Yeah. So
it's an official place. There's only one spot that does it.
Not always. They're generally labs. They're certified labs. Yeah. So So basically, just like certified scientists, right? Like they'll test it and they go, all right, well, in this 250 ml thing, it's got X amount of sugar, X amount of milk. How much is that equal in terms of calories or kilojoules? Then they kind of measure that out, and then they go, all right, here you go. This is what it is.
How much do they cost?
On the development side, so usually it's like one-on-one. So it's kind of like whatever the contract is with the manufacturer, they usually have that offer, like they account for it inside it. So you don't see it as a separate kind of expense. Yeah.
I can't just send in my lunch and be like, what's the...
I suppose you could.
Macros. Give them like $200.
I mean, if you really wanted to, I'm sure you could. But at the same time, it's like, do you want to?
I'm just curious how it works. It's like, where do these numbers come from?
Yeah, well, I suppose from a development side, right? Like these manufacturers will generally have those things in-house. Or they have contracts with a lab that they work with regularly.
Yeah.
But when you kind of go through the development cycle, they know, all right, well, I'll need a nutritional panel on this at some point. So they have that on standby. They go, here's all the ingredients. We never really see the interaction happen, but at the end of it, we see the output, which is this is the nutritional info of the thing. And then you can kind of go, this is part of the development cycle where you go, all right, well, I want it to be less than 500 kilojoules, for example, or 500 calories per can. Then they go, all right, well, what adjustments can we make to the ingredients? They make it. Then you've got to taste it, make sure that it tastes exactly how you want, but then the calories are less, and then you've got to go and test it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like until it gets to a point where you're happy with all of it. Yeah. So I suppose going back to that, a bit of insight into that development cycle, that's how you can see it takes a lot of time, right? Especially if you're doing it remotely as well, like overseas and stuff.
So you have to keep getting new samples.
Yeah, then you got to wait for it to arrive, and it takes like however long bloody FedEx planes take. I don't know, like a week, 2 weeks, or whatever it is.
Oh, it's not a boat shipment.
No. Oh, if you order like a massive quantity of samples, it could come on a boat. But generally, they just like air freight it. They just chuck it on a plane.
Yeah.
When it arrives here.
Okay.
But, all that leads into time, right? So if you go through like 20 iterations, you're like talking about 20 times 2, like 40 weeks of development, right? That you're just waiting 2 week cycles to test it once, 2 weeks again, test the next one, and go on.
Yeah, it takes a while.
Yeah. And then that doesn't even account for, well, what if you haven't even found the supply or the manufacturer you like yet?
Oh, so you got to go to a new guy. Yeah. Try out their recipe.
Yeah, and then you go, all right, well, this is the coffee I want. Then they make the base, and then you go, I don't like that. Change it to this. And then it gets to a point where they go, if you can't get to a happy point with them, then you got to change.
Oh,
the whole thing starts again, right? Yeah. That's the challenge of like doing your own, like, obviously not having your own lab to develop the formulas and stuff like that. Like anyone that's, I suppose, got a brand that's has to do product development and they don't have their own facilities themselves, go through that same cycle, regardless of what it is, right? Yeah, t-shirts, technology, fucking laptop sleeves, whatever it is, they all go through the same thing. Yeah, because unless you've got your own factory in the backyard, you're not doing these things
Who's
yourself.
got money for that?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, a bit of insight into that. So,
all right. Well, where can the listeners find you?
best place is probably to just jump on our website. We've got a store locator section on the website there. So depending on obviously where you're listening from, just jump on there, type in your address, and you might see a store that's got us nearby.
The website being
www.saigonbrew.com.au.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can just buy it online. We've got, like we said earlier, free delivery.
Shopify site, I presume.
Yeah. It's a
uses.
Shopify site. Obviously, I don't. Oh, interesting. I developed that website.
Yourself?
I did it myself. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we had someone that helped us right at the beginning to set it up.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like, we've got to iterate on it. And I didn't know anything about
coding or whatever.
designing websites and stuff. But Shopify's made it so easy.
Not
an ad.
It's pretty easy.
Not an ad, but it actually really is good. Yeah. But yeah, just jump on the website. It's free delivery.
Do our listeners get anything special?
What do you want to give? Yeah. What's a code you want to give?
We'll generate something.
Yeah.
I don't know, rice and mics, or we love Japan something. Yeah. We'll put it in the description.
Yeah, Tom will put it in the description, and I'll give you guys 15% off. So
what a G! Yeah. 15% off. Yeah, definitely try it. It's great. I've got it in my fridge, which I actually had before we set this meeting up. So coincidence. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks for joining me on this episode, Dylan. Make sure you drop your social tags. You got
Instagram is Saigon Brew, and Facebook is Saigon Brew.
Do you post much?
Yeah, so Instagram,
mainly on Instagram.
Mainly on Instagram. We do a bit of TikTok as well.
Okay,
and they're all the same tag.
Same tag. I have them in the description below.
Yeah.
If you do have any questions, or if you want to reach out, follow us on our socials at Rice and Mike's Podcast, or if you want to email us, riceandmikespodcast@gmail.com. Thanks, Dylan, for joining us on this episode. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Try a Saigon Brew. See ya.